Hi, and welcome to Your Truth Explored, the podcast where we unpack your truths to bring clarity, understanding, and insight into what lies ahead. My name is Rodney Reynders. Today's guest is one of Australia's jewels, with a career spanning theatre, film, and television. Anita Hegh has captivated audience through powerful performances that are both deeply authentic and emotionally compelling. A graduate of the National Institute of Dramatic Art, Anita has built an extraordinary career, earning multiple prestigious awards for her work on stage, while also becoming a familiar face through productions such as Stingers, Janet King, Total Control, Pieces of Her, and many more. But beyond the characters we see on screen is a person with a remarkable story. In this episode, we explore the human being behind the performance. We talk about vulnerability, overcoming self-doubt, the craft of acting, the emotional demands of bringing characters to life, and the lessons that come from a career dedicated to understanding people. We also explore how the next chapter of Anita includes the use of her soon-to-be completed Masters of Counselling to bring healthy change to the performing arts space. Whether you know Anita from the stage, the screen, or simply fascinated by the stories that shape extraordinary lives, this conversation offers wisdom, honesty, and plenty of moments that will leave you thinking long after the episode ends. Please join me as we welcome the incredibly talented Anita Hegh to Your Truth Explored. Welcome, Anita.
Thank you so much for having me on your show. I've never been on a podcast before. This is my first podcast.
Oh, that's great. Well, I'm pleased you chose us as your first. That's wonderful. And so you do tell us, Anita. So I was fascinated when we spoke about your conversation about the need in the actor space. So why don't you tell us about that and how that got you on this journey where you find yourself now?
I started as an actor. I started training at a place called NIDA in Sydney. That was back in 91, 92, 93. And the model for actors learning how to act was there was a lot of kind of memory recall and thinking about really terrible things to get yourself in that kind of to get yourself in the spaces to do some highly dramatic work, some traumatic stuff. And it kind of was really fascinating then because I was young and I was like, yeah, this is great. But, then I graduated and then I started working in theatre predominantly. And, as the years go on, I should also preface this by saying I didn't, comedy wasn't my forte. I did mostly quite, intense roles, I suppose.
Yeah.
And as the years went on, I didn't realize that was kind of wearing away at me a little bit and that I was probably not looking after my mental health very well, that I could come off stage. I mean, because these kinds of performances, you often, have to work yourself up into tears and, and you come off stage and you just go, oh, that was fine. And you go and have drinks and, and you wake up the next day and you do it all again. And, you're sometimes doing very long runs of these productions. And it's all part of an actor's technique to look after themselves but as the years have gone on, and I think a lot more truth is required on stage in terms of acting styles. Acting styles, I think a long time ago used to be a lot more, theatrical, a lot more presentational. But now, particularly when we have like video screens on stage and things like that, the absolute truth that you have to present to every performance is critical, or it just doesn't work. Yeah. So it can be very hard for actors to de-roll, and that's not something we've all been trained in. And it's also not something that, people are becoming a little bit more aware about it now, but it hasn't been very cool to do that,
Yeah.
To kind of just some kind of process of going, okay, that was the character. I don't have to take that home with me,
Yeah.
The brain doesn't always understand the difference between a real trauma and acting a trauma, for instance.
Yeah, that's right.
So the accumulation of that can be kind of quite stressful. And I got to a point where I kind of burnt out as an actor. I just felt that I couldn't do it anymore. The processes that I had in place to kind of build myself up to do these kinds of performances, it had kind of taken its toll a little bit, I think. So I started, there was an a man called Mark Seaton who introduced me to a couple of techniques to de-roll. He's a man that coined the term post-dramatic stress, other than, aside from post-traumatic stress. And he kind of identified this and wrote papers on it. And,
Oh, wow.
He kind of came up with a few kind of tools to kind of help with that. And it's something that's being implemented more and more, particularly, with intimacy coordinators and things like that on film and television. But I started thinking about the counselling space for actors while I've been studying, and the whole thing of embarking on the Masters of Counselling was a curiosity about my own mental health and my own welfare and how I can look after myself. And then I started thinking about, wow, this is actually something that particularly actors of my generation, we don't have the tools for. We weren't trained in this. So it's kind of like a kind of a new area for us. And we have access with counselling. We have access to things like an EAP or something like that. But I started thinking, maybe someone like me who has been an actor, I have that kind of shorthand. I understand what the processes are. I understand what they have to go through night after night, or on set. It's a kind of intense pressure. Like, you're not saving lives, but it feels like you're saving lives when you're doing those kinds of performances. It's quite a high pressure job, really.
So that's fascinating for me. So, I mean, I've watched many a movie, and I've never actually done the maths to go, they've got to engage those emotions in real terms to present it on the screen like that. So in counseling terms, we would call that transference. Is it the same thing as that?
It's kind of, we call it emotional recall.
Yeah.
So you can be delving into traumatic memories from the past, or you can be feeding yourself with material like music or news images or movies or things like that to elicit those emotions or get yourself into a space where you're open and vulnerable.
In terms, again, of the psych language, they call that sort of priming the mind. So my inquisitive mind goes, okay, so if you can prime it into the dramatics of or the more deeper emotions, does it work as well when you go into the more joyous emotions? Is it a quid pro quo or not really?
Well, this is the thing. I think it's different for everyone, but I think so. I'm pretty sure, but I haven't had to kind of do that much in my.
You need more comedian roles. Come on.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So I imagine that. So, but part of the de-rolling thing has got a lot to do with that. Kind of shaking up the neurology in the mind. Kind of, just breaking up that kind of. If you have been in that kind of really sort of. If you end up in a kind of a dorsal state after a performance, or if you've got, you're coming off stage and you're often full of adrenaline too, that can happen as well. You just can't come down, which means that a lot of people are kind of hitting the bar, hitting the alcohol, finding different ways to kind of medicate and bring yourself down again. But that can, of course, get you in a cycle of, depression, or it can be very challenging. But that said, there are actors where it doesn't cost them anything. I know one actor in particular who tears can just fall down, roll down their face at the click of a finger. It's like a party trick. Yeah. So there are some actors it doesn't cost them anything, but for others, I think it can be quite a stressful process.
So if you took a stab at it and do you think you'd be able to work out why old mate can let the tears roll and then just flick the switch? What is intrinsically in their DNA that gives them that superpower?
I have no idea. It is a superpower if you want to be an actor, for sure. Wow. I don't know. Maybe it's just like some people can wiggle their ears. I'm not sure. I'm really not.
Well, that's right. It makes you think about also what's the word the resilience. Some people have got resilience, others don't. Is it intrinsic, or is it a learned behavior? The old chicken and egg.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we're also complex, aren't we? I mean, everybody's very different.
So again, in my inquisitive mind, I go, so okay, within the acting realms, there's, in my mind, two classes. There's the struggling actor that's like trying to put bread on or toast on the table, and then the affluent actor that's made a few strides and has got means. And so when you're in that realm and you're trying and you're needing help, how does the struggling actor have the same access to the one that's got a few strides under their belt?
I don't imagine so. I think that probably the well-resourced actor would feel that they have more access for support. And the under-resourced probably wouldn't have necessarily the time or the means, or perhaps they would feel there would be shame in asking for help.
Yeah, that's
People
good.
talk about it. People talk about it as a love job. You know, that you've got it in your veins, like an addiction. You know, that there's that need to act. That if you're an actor, if you're born an actor, then you must do it. And I think that's certainly something that a lot of actors feel. So regardless of whether there's monetary reward for doing it, there's still that passion still exists, and there must be an outlet for it somewhere. I think there's been an introduction of EAPs and intimacy coordinators in theatre over the last few years, which has really helped that. And I think there's a greater general awareness of the importance of mental health.
So when they introduce that kind of support, is that for the cohort? So it's kind of like, there's the snack table and there's somebody you can talk to, or is this not that simple in the mechanics?
No, they won't be in the room. It'll be an EAP like any business. So there'd be a number you can call.
Okay.
They do have intimacy coordinators in the room that help for, if people have to do fights or love scenes, things like that.
Yeah.
There's support there. And, I mean, those things are very well in place now.
If you were able to paint the perfect picture, what does the perfect picture look like then for the actor, irrespective of his level of means?
I think the perfect picture would be something along the lines of how we value our sports people in this country. I don't think actors are valued in the same way. They are if they've made it, and if they're seen to be sort of a great, asset to the country. I think, sports people have all kinds of teams around them to look after them. But I think actors kind of being able to go, yeah, okay, I need someone to hold space for me for an hour while I talk through this process, or talk through what it's going to take for me to do this role, how I'm going to look after myself when I do this role, how I'm going to say goodbye to this role every night and pick it up again the next day. Just those kinds of things that are just in place and just there and just part of the practice, as opposed to something that is something that you have to go and access yourself.
Yeah.
You've got the money. Yeah. And I think the difference between an EAP and, a counsellor who actually understands what's going on is that EAPs are often, it's a very short-term counselling process, 6 sessions or something.
Yeah.
And I think that there are some peculiarities about what it is to be an actor that I think specialised counsellors could offer.
If you wanted to preempt this, is it a requirement of the skilling up? Should it be in the uni or the study component before they get out into the acting field?
Well, yes, possibly. And I think those things are certainly in place in a lot of the drama schools, in terms of self-care, how to have conversations with other actors about where they're happy to be kind of have body contact, in a fight scene or a love scene.
Yeah.
All those kinds of things I think actors are being prepped for a lot more now. But yeah, I think the kind of mental baggage that can or emotional baggage that can be collected along the journey of an actor from role to role to role to role, if we want to look after our actors and look after the longevity of their careers, I think there can be a little bit more support there.
Since you've brought the analogy of the sports person, so the sports person of late, mental health is a subject matter that's being discussed openly all the time. Are actors discussing it openly all the time? Is it on the forefront of their mind, or is it on the forefront of your mind because it's your thing, but everybody else is blissfully unaware?
I'm not sure if it is on the forefront of everyone's mind because it's one of those things. It's very, very slippery. You feel like you're in control of it all. You think it's fine. I know how to do that. I know how to access that emotion. I know how to do this. But then after time, after a certain amount of time and going, oh, no, that's okay. I'll deal with these feelings later, or, I'll work through that part of what's come up during that play, those feelings or issues that came up for me while I was playing that role. I can deal with that later. I think there's such a kind of, actors want to work, right? So they're going to take the work no matter what state they're in. They're not going to go, I'm going to take a sabbatical.
Yeah.
Unless they've got the means,
ponder
right?
on this
The roles flowing in. Yeah. That's it. So you're going to take the work no matter what's going on. So it's just that thing of like having support for these actors that are kind of when they're working and also when they're not working. Because I think so much of one's identity as an actor and their self-esteem is attached to whether they're able to do what they feel they're born to do.
Yeah.
And when the work is not there, that are sometimes for reasons that's not, to do with talent, then it's that can be a time when they need support as well.
So how do you go when you bring this passion into that circle, being that you're well versed in it, got a master's, like passionate about it, and our mate sitting at the other, is he rolling his eyes or is he engaging in the conversation? Where we at?
Yeah, a lot of them are going to roll their eyes. A lot of them are. They're going to go, "Oh, what are you kidding me?"
Anita, seriously.
But, yeah. But some of them may be curious, and I suppose that's the kind of that's where you've got to start.
Yeah.
And also, I don't have my master's yet, Rodney. I've got 6 more weeks.
Oh, 6 weeks. I'll give you a note. You'll be right. I've seen you in action. You're good. You're all good.
So it'll be good. It'll be good to kind of, to start practicing.
So I'm interested to know now. So for you, our mate who's rolling his eyes has not fully considered this idea of self-care or emotional intelligence or the value of counseling. And you've gone all the way down the master's line, barring the 6 weeks journey. So what triggered the transition? Is it purely an internal reflection, or do you think there's a destiny, purpose, a greater call? What's the driver?
Oh yeah, good question. Okay, that's changed throughout the course of study. I started because I had my daughter very late in life. I didn't have her until I was 46, and I was pretty much working in theatre for many years until that time. And I had her, and then I did a play, which is the last play that I've done, and I just went, how do people do it? I now want to ring up every person I ever worked with that had children while they were doing theatre and apologise and go, I have no idea how you managed to be a parent and do this. But I just felt like I also felt like I just didn't want to be away from her at night. And I think maybe that's because I waited so long to have a child, perhaps. But I just thought, I'm not going to go and do a play now. So that was something that happened. Every time I sort of flirted with the idea of doing a play, I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't sort of go through with it. So then I started doing, I kept doing bits of TV, which I do every now and then, and that kind of feeds that, the love of it. But then now as I'm going, I really feel like, I don't know whether I've just changed a little bit, and I'm like, oh, it's not so appealing to me anymore. I mean, there's still things that I like doing, but there are roles now that perhaps I would have wanted to do that now I go, no, I don't think I need to do that now.
Yeah.
I don't know what's changed, but I feel like sort of psychically, physically, mentally, I don't know, everything's kind of shifted a little bit, and my whole lens on it is quite different. But I still really feel passionate support for actors is needed, because I think they're really special people. And I mean that they're very, it takes a lot to kind of slush around in a whole lot of emotions like that people don't want to face. And they really reflect for us. If we go and see performance in film or television or on stage, They reflect for us what it is to be human.
Yeah.
They make us think about what it is to be a parent or to go through something like, a trauma with family, or to be able to make us laugh, to be all these sorts of things that actors can do. It's quite an extraordinary thing. And I feel, compared to some other cultures in the world, that we don't value it as much as I would like our Australian actors to be valued.
Yeah. Can I make an observation? So we've had this conversation sort of privately besides now. And my takeaway from those conversations is when you talk about your acting career, your body language is more subdued. But when you talk about actors at large, it's very much heightened and excited, which is what we just witnessed right now. So in terms of that idea, is this my destiny, my call? And I remind you of your physicality, the way your body responds to that idea. Does that put a spotlight on that answer, maybe?
It does, I think. I think that's a lovely observation. And I feel I've never been a very good champion of self. I'm not really. I find it a bit embarrassing. I don't quite, but I really love championing other people. I can really get behind other people, and I feel like that's the calling, that somehow that's what I should be doing. Yeah. And I'm hoping that this is a way that I can do that.
Let's say the platform works out and you have access to these actors and they're coming for the conversations. What cost are they paying in terms of, I was going to say trauma, but I don't think trauma, maybe loss. So you reflect on having a kid late in life, and then you think, how did old mate even do that with a kid?
Yeah.
And so there would be some that aren't having kids because the dream's still important. But then if you aren't having something that is also important, maybe not as important, there's that loss that if nobody sits down and goes, you're paying a fee for that thing, you don't know it. So it just kind of ticks away in the background and costs you down the line. And I would say that that's probably true as well for, I don't know, you go for an audition and this is your role you're passionate about, and an old mate next door gets it to you, and then there's that loss. Is it defined as loss? I don't know. I don't know anything about the industry, but is it defined as loss? Because from my perspective, I'm going, there's lots of little fees you're paying along the way that at surface level don't seem significant, but you stack them up, that's a significant bill you're paying, and it's going to come at a price.
I think so. Look, some are more resilient than others, but that, I suppose, there's loss, rejection, and also the kind of it's the lack of control that's really difficult for people too, because you have no agency really in your career. Often when you're a jobbing actor, such as myself, you're really at the behest of, whether this person chooses you or not, whether the agent calls you or not. You're not the driver necessarily of your career. Some people are amazing. They can write and direct and make things happen and make projects happen for themselves. But if you don't have an aptitude for those skills or an interest in those other skills, it can be very, very difficult.
Yeah.
But as I say, some people, they just, some people are Teflon. It's just they move on and it's all great. But for other people, it can be very painful.
When they recognize it's painful, can they put the language to go, hang on, this is loss, or this is rejection, or is it just
Look, I think they probably laugh and go and have a beer or something, and move on from it. But I think secretly it can be a lot more painful, and I think it gets minimized. And I think it's something that it's not a great way to be for your mental health. It's really tough. I mean, can you imagine, the regular kind of 9-to-5 job where, not that anyone's 9 to 5 anymore, everyone's working 24 hours, but the regular job where, every 2 weeks you kind of get told, we don't know if we want you for this job now because of, how you look or your height, or you weren't good enough, or you know what I mean, or such and such doesn't like you, like all this kind of stuff. It's a very kind of it can make you kind of hypervigilant, I think.
It's interesting to put it like I've never even given it 5 minutes thought of that process you'd have to walk through. But when you put it in that language, I think, wow, I don't think I'm signing up.
Yeah, yeah. But when it's good, it's good, and I think
Yeah.
that's where it becomes really addictive. When you get to kind of inhabit a role that you love, and you're on stage and you're moving people, and the whole theatre feels as one. It's quite an extraordinary thing. It's really extraordinary. So it's hard to let go of that, to let go of that dream, or it's hard to ride the roller coaster of that, because sometimes it's good and sometimes it's. I remember a famous actress said to me, "You think your career is going to go like this, like one steady sort of incline, but it's more the roller coaster." And that's at any level. Even if you speak to the really, really famous people, successful people who are constantly working, it can still for them feel like there are the highs and lows.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. What I am interested then is this. If I can get myself into this role and tap in all these emotions, is that transferable if I'm the accountant? So I'm not an actor, I'm an accountant, and he's paying the bills of loss, all these things we've spoken about now, but in a different platform, completely different platform, that of accountancy. So when you think of this solution that you're brewing on for actors, is it transposable? Is it for everybody? Like, you happen to be focusing on this particular niche, but is it transferable to the man at large?
I'm not sure. I think probably. I suppose so. I mean, it's not new stuff. It's not what I'm not creating something. I suppose I'm just kind of. It came out of a conversation that I had with a television producer, who was sort of saying, "Wow, I really wish that I had someone that understood acting to talk to this cast member, because they're going
Okay.
through something that's the residue of this role that they played." And I went, "Oh yeah, of course." Like, it's not part of our kind of a process, the actor's process. Whereas I think probably in day-to-day life, your accountant friend would probably feel that they have the access and the funds to maybe seek support if they need to. But often with actors, you kind of feel like, oh, I should keep this money because this is when I'm working.
Yeah, that's right.
This is when I'm working. I've got to save the money for when
When I'm not.
I'm not working. I don't have another job for 10 weeks. I don't really feel I can spend that money. You're cost cutting on self-care.
Yeah, that's right. That's would be the first thing that goes. Hey?
Yeah, exactly.
When the director's having this conversation with you, is it on the minds of other directors, or did you just get lucky in this particular case?
I don't know. I happened to speak to a producer who's like, he's an extraordinary person. He's probably one of the most kind and humane producers in the industry, and looks after people, looks after his cast and crew. I think it is something that probably, depending on the content in the production, is something that producers could budget for cast, and often for crew too. Crew work extraordinary hours.
Yeah.
Like, they're there from 4 a.m. to 7, 8 p.m. sometimes, day after day. And then they've got to drive to work, drive home from work. They're under extraordinary pressure.
I had a conversation recently, well, actually, I have it a lot with business people, and this idea that self-care makes commercial sense. And whenever I have this conversation, I've got to wait 10 minutes because I've got to get their eyes to stop rolling. And they're like, I've got enough bills to pay. I don't want to hear about your self-care pitch. Can you off? So I understand to play the game and wait for my turn. But I think if you do the maths and you do self-care well, and I use an example, I can actually turn a meeting into a cost factor, and then self-care can determine in dollars and cents what the benefit is. Is it that easy in the acting game because your shelf life is so short? So when you employ in the commercial space, our mate's going to be working for you for 2 years at least, or a CEO is there for 5 years. So you can do the maths over a longer period. But in your environment, being that you every 2 weeks almost deciding if your head is justifying you another go.
Mm.
Is it that easy? Can you transpose the self-care into a dollar and cents value for the producer?
Yes, that's I think a really interesting point. And it's up to the kind of, I suppose it's an ethical question for producers, whether they're interested in the longevity of people and the mental health of the people that work in their industry. I mean, they may only contract an actor for 3 months, and as you say, why should they worry about anything after that period? As long as everything's hunky dory during that time, then that's fine. But yes, the impact that over time of what can happen to actors, I think, is something that could the industry at large could have a little more awareness about. Yeah. I do understand what you mean in dollars and cents. I don't know how to answer that question because
my head's spinning now because that intrigues me, the dollars and cents. So I'm thinking, okay, so you've got on made for 3 months. He accesses these significant emotions, has the high from the recording, and as you said, then goes to the pub because what else am I going to do? I'm going to get down. So he has a few pints. Then that is where the dollars and cents cost kicks in straight away. So tomorrow's performance is it on par, or is there Sundays where you think, big night, eh?
I think, yeah, definitely. Look, I think that's part of the kind of, 8 shows a week is that they're not all going to be, 100% on no matter what,
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, that can impact over time. Definitely.
And it doesn't have to be over time. So that's tomorrow. You're paying
tomorrow,
$1
yeah,
and cents
for sure. Yeah.
And so you go, okay, so I'm offering you an opportunity to save that cost of having to reshoot or having to prep him up or motivate him or whatever it is I got to do to get him out of the funk. I can alternate that with a healthy. Anyway, that's where my mind goes. But anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose there's the thing of like, you can lead a horse to water as well. It's not going to be for everyone. Some, actors are going to go, I'm not doing that. I'm going to the pub. It's just going to kind of depend really on the production, on the material, on the kind of people you're working with. But I just think it's an interesting thing to have.
Is this a universal actor problem, or is there a nuance that's Australian flavored? Because Australians do like to go to the pub. Like in South Africa, I don't, you don't really go to the pub. You're probably going to get shot on the way there. So it's like the motivation's not as big. So you kind of go home and then you go to bed because you're home. I wonder, is it different?
Oh yeah, we're a boozy culture, that's for sure. Definitely, I think that really comes into play. But it's like when I first started acting, everybody smoked.
Yeah.
So we were all, stage door, everyone's, smoking every time there's a break. Okay, 10-minute break, and we're all out there going, what do you think? How do you think the show's going? I don't know. What do you think? Oh, the director said this. Everyone. And if you didn't go out and smoke, you never got to hear what was really happening. You didn't get the goss, right? But now nobody smokes. Some people vape, but you can sort of vape in the corridors or whatever. But that kind of changes. But I think a lot of people are not drinking as well now too. There is an awareness of that.
Yeah.
Just generally. But I don't know. I think some of the old school, I think it's pretty tough to let go of the pub.
Yeah, and maybe your target market is not the old school that have built a pathway that's cast in stone. Maybe it's for the new guy that's going, hey, I don't want to burn out in 10 years. I want to see if I can crack 30 years. So, here's the option. You can do that. Here's the cost. You can do this. This is the cost, and these are the benefits of the two.
Yeah.
But again, my head goes to cost and benefits.
Yes.
Profit and loss.
My head doesn't. Mine just goes, everybody should have this. Just make it happen.
Yeah, we definitely wire it differently, man. Yeah. That's what makes it so good. Tell me the dream in its full fulfillment. What do you know what that looks like?
I have got no idea what it looks like. I don't have a 5-year plan. I have a couple of little ideas of how to start and where to start. And then that's all I can give you, Rodney. I'm just hoping that something kind of, if I can help just a few people, that would be great.
So now my coaching, I'm going to put my coaching hat on now. So I don't have a plan, but what if I said to you, here's your role to go and deliver the performance of this culture-changing person in the acting space? Does that change the game plan?
I'm not sure. I've never had a coach before. Is this something you do, Rodney? You saying you're going to be my coach?
Well, I'm free on Wednesdays, but no, I'm not. But yes, so that is my thing. But it's interesting sometimes because we say, okay, what's the big dream, and we can't do it. But acting, I can give you a script tomorrow that says go be that thing, and I can be that thing. So why can't I give you a script that says you change the acting culture, go be that thing?
Yeah, that's a good question. That is a good question. I'm not sure why. Maybe that's fear, a lack of self-esteem. I probably need maybe a few more kind of experiences as a counsellor. You know what I mean? I think I need a little bit more kind of confidence in that kind of general arena of the counselling sphere, a few more kind of, like I'm really interested in narrative therapy, I'm kind of interested in art therapy. I'd like to kind of like just be in those spaces for a little while before I find my thing, I feel like it's going to take a little bit of time because I haven't been a counsellor before.
Yeah, but I keep coming. I was talking to Alex Bungard the other day, and we were reflecting on this idea of 80% of the success of your session got 0% to do with the modality used.
Yes, this is right.
So, when I hear you say that, I think, it's a lot of effort for 20%.
Yeah, that's right. It's just it's finding your way, isn't it?
Yeah.
Look, I think like anything, I remember the first counselling session, was like, oh, what am I going to do? I don't know how to do this. How do I start? Where do I start? It's a real baptism by fire thing, isn't it? You just get thrown in and you go, oh, okay. The learning has sunk in. I do know how to do this.
Yeah.
I do know how to sort of hold space for someone. I mean, that's essentially it, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
And then, you see where the client takes you.
Yeah.
I think that can probably work for what I want to do. So yeah, okay, Rodney, I'm going to go and do it. I'm going to go
awesome.
I'm going to change the culture.
Good, my job is done.
Every actor in counselling, whether they like it or not.
You in there. Wonderful. Well, I look forward to reflecting back in 5 years' time on all the yous and yous that you've sorted out. That's wonderful. Yeah, but so it's just in closing, if there is a producer or a director or an actor that's listening to this and they go, I think I should get onto that bandwagon, how do they get hold of you? Is there some formulation of a process already?
They would get hold of me through my agent.
Okay.
They're called Nathan Culliver Management.
Yeah.
Or they could find me on Instagram and send me a DM.
A DM, like in the modern day world.
In the modern day world, like the kids do. That's right.
Yeah, that's right. We're very hip nowadays. DM me. Awesome. Oh, okay. Well, I'm excited, and I look forward to reflecting on the script that then delivered this change in culture. That's cool. I like that. I'm even inspired, and I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, you can play the role, Rodney.
Well, Anita, it's been an absolute joy to spend some time with you and have a chat, so thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thanks so much for your time and giving me some really good things to think about.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Your Truth Explored. If today's episode resonated with you, please take a moment to follow the podcast and share it with someone who might benefit from the conversation. Your support helps these messages reach the people who need them most. If you'd like to explore your own truths more deeply, you're welcome to connect with me at yourtruthservices.com.au about coaching or counseling bookings. Also available on that website is our other resources such as music, books, and videos. Until next time, take care and stay connected to your truth.